Through the ups and downs, we stand tall in this journey of growth. Day by day, through the ups and downs, we stand tall in this
And we're
journey
on.
of growth. Day by
Come on,
day.
Jules.
Hello.
How's your morning? Just
Hot.
begun. Just begun.
Hot. This might have been freezing.
What are we talking about today, Juliet? We are talking
So
about.
we're talking about exploring feminism and potentially through Louise Perry's lens. So we spoke before on the last one or the one before about Louise Perry. We just mentioned her. Having both read her book, The Case Against the Sexual Revolution. And we thought we'd delve into feminism. I don't think either of us are feminist experts, are we?
No, I'm definitely not. I kind of take your lead on some things. Like you've recommended me other books to read as well. Not on
I
feminism, but on.
definitely.
No, but
Yeah.
as in on this kind of subject, should we say?
Okay. What books?
I can't remember.
No, because I was about to say I don't think I'm well
No,
schooled in feminism,
I'm trying to think of some of the ones that I'll look them up whilst you're talking.
which might be why we have the opinions that we do,
Yeah.
or maybe we're not well schooled on it because we have the opinions we do. So, as people who don't really know huge amounts about feminism, I'm not sure that we're qualified to give any kind of definition of feminism, but maybe we could give our own understanding of it. So when you think of feminism, what comes to your mind? So what would have come to your mind
People burning their bras.
before you read Louise Perry?
Yeah. Before I read all that, just people that basically hate men. That is my, they hate men. They think they don't need men. But this is my uneducated on feminism because I don't particularly think that I'm an expert at all. But that's my view on it. Like I think I'm kind of of the view that it's like they're all a very angry bunch.
So you're not a man hater.
I'm not a man hater. I'm very much on the Jordan Peterson that we need men for for war, things like that. Men have got, which I know feminists will be on the opposite side too, that we don't need men for anything. Women can do everything. I like having doors held open for me. Call me old fashioned. But I don't know if that's, is that considered feminism? Like, would a feminist get annoyed with a man doing things? I don't know. This is my point. I don't really.
So in your mind, would a feminist kind of want to eradicate men and not have men on the planet?
Yeah, I think they, in my view, right, I see them in a commune or something like that. Like, I don't know.
You
Yeah,
wouldn't want to
yeah.
live in a commune. I'd quite want to live in a commune.
I don't know. I wouldn't mind, but I don't hate men. I think we need men as protectors, if nothing else, and builders. They build things. They're very clever, some of them.
Do women not?
Yeah, but this is the thing. I'm not saying that women don't, and I think this is the thing that they're like completely like, no, women can do absolutely everything. But I think has it not? This is the thing. Now we can get into grey ground of saying things that aren't true. But like when we only employ women to as female engineers in this company, it like went bust within a couple of years because there's only. I don't disagree that women can be great mechanical engineers, say for aerospace, but there's only the same with the pool of people. There's only so many people that are at the top of their game in a profession, say, and just having a lot of women working in one place doesn't necessarily mean that they're all good. So I think in the workplace, then that's taking it into the workplace, but is in a general view. And I know that's not real. I know that it's not like all women, but I don't have any feminist friends, I'd say.
I think your probably views on what feminism are more extreme than what mine are. I think I just thought
I'm a non-feminist extremist.
I don't really know what I thought feminist. I've never, I think they exist. Well, they do. I think you could probably
How far do you take it? Yeah.
I
Another minefield with open.
Maybe I'm not a feminist because I've never really known what a feminist is.
Yeah, this is
But I
Have we got a definition? Have we got a
Yeah,
definition of
we do.
feminism, or do
So
you want to go
let
through
me
what
give
you
you.
think? Do you want to? No, hold on a
Yeah,
minute. Do you want? Because I've obviously had my say. Go on. What's your
I don't. Well,
speak?
this is the thing. I don't really know, and maybe I don't subscribe to these clubs when I don't feel like I'm in a situation that's problematic. So I went to when I was at school. I was always told that I could do anything, achieve anything. I mean, it was a complete load of bullshit, but that's what the people. We talked before about being in sets at school and stuff, and I was in the top set.
Mm,
And actually, I think this is a whole other subject. I think it was terrible what the school did. Also, based on the conversation we just had off record about people who didn't do well at school achieving um, huge career success
mm,
uh, now. But
yeah.
being in the top set, we were told very much you can go and do anything. And actually, I think I was just good at doing exams because I haven't been. Well, I don't necessarily think I could just go and do anything. Um,
Mm. Do you
and
not believe that to be true now, though?
um, mm,
Is
Not
that to do with
necessarily,
feminism,
not
though?
really. I think I was told that I think it was more the belief was put into me that um, you could just literally walk into somewhere and not have. I don't think that because we were intelligent people, I don't think it was instilled into us that we still need to work really hard. So
Mm.
I almost took from it you can achieve with you're so intelligent that you can achieve without working hard.
Yeah,
And so
yeah, I
when I
think
went into
because
the
I wasn't very good
workplace,
at exams, so for me, I was in all the top sets, and then when it came to exams, I went to pieces, as we were talking about before about best ways to learn. Because I wasn't taught how to. I was just good at things.
yeah, well, that's what I was like at GCSE level. So I
Mm,
worked, but not that hard at all, really.
yeah.
And then I just went into the exams, did well enough, went to A levels where I had to work and flunked the whole lot because I didn't think I
Mm,
had to work. I was intelligent. I didn't need to work. I could just do it. And so then the same thing happened when I went to work. I thought that I
mm,
could just go in and because I was so intelligent, I was going to be better than everyone else in the office and therefore get the best jobs and that didn't happen. Anyway, it wasn't the right work and I changed and blah blah blah. But I think because for most of my life I was told that I could achieve, I never ever questioned that I might not be able to, and I still now think, well, the reason I didn't achieve what I wanted to when I was employed was because I didn't work hard enough, not because
mm,
I was female, because I had female colleagues who worked, well, yourself included, who worked differently to me and
mm.
achieved far more than
Differently.
me. Well, because I don't necessarily know it was harder, but it was differently, wasn't it? Um, and achieved so much more. So they were female and they achieved. So, and
Mm.
I feel like I went into the loft yesterday.
Well done.
I
Well
know.
done.
Yeah,
Did you
I
go up
put
there on
things in
your
the
own?
loft. Yeah, no one was at
Was
home.
Matt there to supervise, or
No, Matt had dumped all the
did
stuff
he
in the
check on
spare
your work
room to go
afterwards,
into the
though?
loft. He'd not even been. He'd dumped it in the spare room for me to put in the loft, or for someone to put in the loft. I don't know who the
See,
someone
there's
is. If
that,
it's
and
only us two,
I
but
play on the femininity sometimes, though, when I don't want to do things that I consider to be a man's job. So there you go.
yeah. Well,
Definitely not a feminist.
no, I guess you're not. But I think neither am I because I don't feel like I have to. I just feel like that there isn't a need for it. However, I think maybe there is. I think there's. I remember another friend who worked at. I can probably name the company actually, IBM, and they when it was a few years ago, quite a few years ago
Mm,
now, when they had to publish their uh, um, pay like what they pay people,
mm.
females and males. I can't remember. It was a big
Ah, the
thing,
gender pay
and
gap.
yeah, and suddenly all the females in the company got a massive pay rise because they were being paid so much less than the men. So
Oh,
we know that that goes on, and so maybe there is a
yeah.
need for feminism where things like that are concerned. But my perception of feminism has been that women there's a belief that women can't achieve as much as men, and feminists are the people arguing that women can achieve as much as men. And because I've always believed in myself and my ability, potentially
Mm.
more than I
Maybe
actually
that's it
have,
then. Maybe that's it.
I've
That's
not
why the
believed in it.
understanding's like that. Then, yeah. Yeah,
But
because
this
we haven't
goes,
had a need to.
yeah, quite
Maybe.
possibly, um, because you've achieved and I've I don't know,
But
but I've never felt
not
held back by
without
men.
doing stuff though. But like I don't know. Do and this is not to upset any feminists, but do you think that they're just like with these groups of people? Sometimes I won't name the certain groups, but that they use this as an excuse because they haven't achieved things in
Well,
that
no,
sense.
maybe they do, but what I would go on to say is there's probably some feminists who want to scream at us because what they're potentially saying is
Mm,
you could have achieved so much more if there wasn't the patriarchy.
mm.
And I do think that that is
Yeah,
probably true.
yeah,
And I think when we've
yeah.
talked about this before, and I think we might not be recognizing it. And I think life might have been easier for us if there wasn't the patriarchy. And there's definitely been situations where I think,
And do you want to
you know,
explain what patriarchy is as well for people that don't necessarily know? Because I had to look this up before.
yeah, well, I don't know that I'm very good at. Well, it's the men being in charge, isn't it? Can we
Yeah.
get a proper definition?
Right. So
Because
patriarchy is a social system that gives men power and privilege over women and is characterized by a number of characteristics, including power. Well, this is a long one. Power and that men hold positions of power in society, including politics, economics, and culture. Gender roles. Patriarchy encourages traditional gender roles, such as women being responsible for raising children and unpaid care work. Violence. Patriarchy normalizes gender-based violence and control over women's reproductive rights. And you do see that actually. Beliefs. Patriarchy is based on belief that that men are superior. I shouldn't slip there. To women and should hold power in society. And inequality. Patriarchy perpetuates inequality through both crude and subtle forms of oppression, such as violence and laws.
yeah, so I definitely think that exists. But what our definition of feminism that we have here is feminism is the advocacy for women's rights on the basis of equality of the sexes. However, it encompasses diverse ideologies from liberal feminism to radical feminism, often sparking debate.
Wow.
And so I have a chunk of, I mean, I've got a chunk from
Yeah,
the
yeah.
foreword of Louise Perry's book. Do
Mm.
we want to? Do you want to say something else? Because
No. It was just it says on on these prompts about feminism equating solely with hating men or rejecting traditional roles, which is exactly what
yeah,
that's the misconception
yeah,
is
yeah.
what I have basically.
So you think that you've got a misconception of
Yeah.
feminism,
Mm,
and I maybe am too lax about the situation we're in as females in the
mm,
world and should perhaps fight a little bit harder for our
mm.
rights, or fight a little bit more against the patriarchy, which I think I'm seeing more and more. Not that it's getting stronger, but that my
It's
eyes are
coming
opening to
up
it.
more, yeah, and it is to me as well because obviously I didn't, and like when I read Louise Perry's book, I was like, oh my, like there were so many like aha moments in there that I think I was messaging you constantly going, oh my God, this that, you know,
Yeah,
things that
and
I didn't know about
yeah, and
or I
so
hadn't understood, and she explains it so well.
that's because is that because a few weeks ago we were talking about I can't remember what we're talking about, but you when we're talking about intuition and you said about knowledge and having access to more knowledge,
mm,
um, do you think it's that we kind of go along blindly and then when someone opens our eyes to
yeah,
something that's not okay, like the Me Too campaign, suddenly
a
women who
hundred
had
percent.
gone around having their bums slapped in an office thinking, well, that's just normal, it's just the way it
Well,
is.
this is the thing, isn't it? When you worked in the city in the 90s, like I did, the way, like now, after reading things like this and understanding it, you kind of go, well, that just wouldn't happen. But also, in the same breath, and this could be because I'm accepting of it, I had a great time.
Mm,
So although there was downsides to it, there was more fun there than there is now in
yeah.
my head. But was I conditioned? And I think I've said that to you before. Was it the fact that I was conditioned to men's behaviour? But I wouldn't. I don't know.
And this is where
I
it
wouldn't
gets
say I was
really
held back.
confusing, isn't it? Yeah, held
But
back,
like
but
I
you
say,
were.
was I conditioned? Well, I don't. I thought I had control. Maybe I didn't.
And so it's an
Because there's lots of
interesting
other
thing.
things as I've grown older, as I've got older and obviously got more knowledge that I've understood that were wrong, that I didn't know were wrong at the time.
Yeah, and so Louise Perry's kind of she's not a feminist, or she's at it's a
No.
I don't know that she specifies that quite so specifically, but she seems quite anti modern feminism, but on
Mm,
the flip side is very aware of the patriarchy, why it exists, and how not acceptable it's not acceptable,
mm.
but is there anything we can do? She's kind of describing the human biology part of
Yes.
it, isn't
And
she? And
what the kind of thing that she says is like, yes, we get it. Like, women should be able to walk down the street at any time of day and be safe. But the facts are, you're not. And there are predators, male predators, and yes, you can say women should be able to. But the fact is, there are going to be times when you can't do that. So rather than saying women should be able to walk down the street, realize that that's not the truth and protect yourselves and put things in place. And I think that's what one of the big takeaways that I took from her reading. Did you want to go through the intro that
yeah,
you
I'll
were
go
going to
through
do?
in a minute, but it's interesting because Me Too, it's a good book.
Oh,
It's not a
brilliant.
small book, and it's really got loads of content. But I also remember it like what you've just said, and one of the key things that I remember reading was something like they stick posters up saying "Don't rape," but that's never going to stop a rapist.
Yeah.
And so, whilst we
I wish
should
I'd
be
got the
able to
stats up actually, yeah, because she was saying about they asked a group of men about if you knew that you weren't going to get caught and there were going to be no consequences, would you rape? And
yeah,
I don't know if we've got to be careful with the wording in this, by the way. But yeah, that if you were to do that, to say that to a group of men, there is a higher percentage that would say yes
yeah,
if there were
and
no consequences.
I feel like her argument is more how, as females, we should be focusing our energy and attention on keeping ourselves safe rather than trying to
Mm,
stop the men from, not because they should be able to do that, but because there's a biological
yeah.
aspect to it, and
Mm.
putting
We look at
posters up
war,
might
look
not be
at,
able to.
things like,
Yeah,
look at the horrors of war and what men do in war when
yeah,
they go into towns and things like that. And that's men of any walk of life from, you know, anywhere will do terrible things.
and some accounts I've read, they feel a hell of a lot of shame afterwards.
Mm, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but in the moment, it kind of came over them because of because we're animals. But shall I
yeah,
read this?
yeah, go
So
on.
I've highlighted a massive chunk of the foreword of Louise Perry's book, which is by Kathleen Stock. So it isn't actually Louise Perry's work, but it's about the book. So perhaps surprisingly, the taboo around discussing the costs of the sexual revolution is enabled by popular feminism. This is because popular feminism is a version of liberal feminism, and liberal feminism, in its populist guise, is focused mostly on a woman's right to choose or consent, construed incredibly thinly. Everything and anything goes as long as you choose or consent to it at the time. What this misses out, of course, is that people can be pressured by peers or partners or wider cultural forces into believing that they want things which later they come to recognize as bad for them. In a culture dominated by male sexuality, there's an obvious interest in convincing women that they want to have sex like men do, and many women go along with things they later come to regret. At this point, the inner liberal feminist in many readers may be howling, but what if I genuinely want all that stuff? Well, good for you if you genuinely do. But as Perry shows, even if this sort of sex works for some women, there are many other women for whom it does not. And they aren't prudes or frigid or asexual or in a moral panic or any of the other insulting words produced by the culture to keep the whole man pleasing machinery working. Nor need they be religious. There are plenty of reasons to be wary of contemporary sexual mores that are perfectly secular. Um, Both liberal feminism's narrow focus on choice and its incapacity to discuss deep differences between women and men stem from its intellectual forefather, liberalism, a political tradition heavily focused on freedom of choice as the thing definitive of personhood. The fantasy of a liberal subject is of an ostensibly sexless individual, defined mostly by the presence of a free will, untethered by family ties or community expectations, and pursuing private preferences in a relatively unfettered way. I say ostensibly sexless because, in a point made by second-wave feminists and brought up to date by Perry, this idealized figure of a liberal subject sounds more like a man roaming around getting his oats than a woman whose life is intertwined with the kids that are the outcome of her own sexual activity. And then it goes, I'm missing out a bit, but given the vexed history of discussion about nature versus nurture within feminism, this move towards the natural is a bold one. But Perry's approach deserves open-minded attention, especially when you remember that according to the currently more popular narrative, human bodies as well as minds are plastic. Yes, such is liberal feminism's fear of limits upon personal freedom that, in tandem with its BFF capitalism, it now construes facts about healthy bodies as obstacles to freedom. Don't like your breasts? Buy new ones or cut them off altogether. Delete as
Yeah.
appropriate. Incredibly, in some feminists, the degree of denial stretches even to telling us that biology itself is a myth or a construct. Yet, as Perry argues, once we acknowledge the hard limits imposed by biology, we can make informed inferences about female well-being in particular, rooted in the real and not what is projected or fantasized by men. And I think to some extent, for some people, and I don't want to put everyone in a group here,
Yeah.
what she says here is why there's this big thing at the moment with non-binary, and I don't know these terms. I want to make sure I'm not being derogatory by the terms I'm using, but people who choose to not
Conform to their
no,
biological.
well, not subscribe to either gender, and I think that can come from what it says here about I've lost it now, but basically the society's construction of what a male and a female is, and they don't feel that they belong to either of those, therefore they leave them both. But it's not based on biology anyway. That's another subject, but I think
Yeah. I
what
don't think she's very much liked by. I'm just looking her stuff. I don't think she's very much liked by some of those types of people either.
well I'm guessing
This is
she's
Kathleen Stock, by the way.
Kathleen Stock. So I don't know anything about her, but the point here is that there are biological differences between males and females, but we've then on top of that got society's construct of males and females, which is potentially different to the biology. So what do you think about that?
I do think that. I mean, I'm very much that women. I don't know. I suppose, am I just accepting then? Is that what I'm just accepting of my fate?
I don't know. Are you? Is there a limit?
When it
Is there
comes to
things
women
that
and men,
you will accept or won't accept?
yeah, but I just think it doesn't. I think you choose the people that you want to spend time, or we've said this before, haven't we, about the people that you're around and the things that you do and don't accept, and you are in charge of that. I think it's perhaps the younger generation now. Oh, it sounds so old, the younger generation. But I do think that it is for our kids' sakes, particularly in the school system now, and that's a whole nother subject, that what they're putting into their little minds. Like, obviously, we were told it was just academically. It wasn't really, was it really?
Well,
Things
no,
that
it
were.
definitely wasn't. But I wonder, you're in an interesting situation because non-feminists are generally the people who, the women, they're in a traditional unit. The women stay at home with the kids and the men go out to work.
But I didn't know, did I?
No, exactly. So you've kind of lived the life of a
Mm.
feminist.
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
And
you could
that's
just
quite
remind me, and
interesting.
that's how we just got onto this subject, wasn't it? Just to start off with, because I remember, and we were talking about this, that I remember sitting in thinking that you could have it all, and being told, I suppose, in a way that you could, but then feminists would they argue that they should be at home with their children? I don't know.
Well,
Is that
and then again, this is our own lack of understanding. My experience is that feminists would argue you can have it all.
okay, right? Okay, yeah. See,
I
I
don't know
didn't
if
see that
that's
as a
true.
feminist thing. We're going to get
Yeah,
slated for this.
I know. Don't know their
but
content,
well,
but
but
but this is
but
really relevant because we could
no,
have gone on Google and we could have done a heap of research and we could have read
we understand
20
feminists.
books just to
Yeah.
prepare for this, or we could have not spoken about it at all because it's not our subject. But what we are is we're speaking about it as two lay people with our own understanding
Mm.
based on two people
Our
who are
experiences
widely
as
read
well.
as well. We're widely read, we
Well,
both
widely
work.
read. I like.
So Fonzie.
That was on a there's a film
What a
called
knob.
Damsel, don't watch it. And it was like a dragons and princesses. I hope he's well read.
I was going to buy that book, How Not to Be a Dick, for someone. I think I need to buy it for myself. Oh, well, I can be even more widely read.
Anyway, back to
So we're
feminism.
widely read. We're both intelligent people. I was at the top set at school.
I flunked all my
And I
GCSEs just for anyone
still,
listening. So.
I flunked my A-levels, don't worry. I just was one step behind you. As my brother pointed out the other day.
People will probably be like, "What's a GCSE?"
Oh, God.
I don't know what they're
Anyway,
called now.
I think they're still called
Are they?
GCSEs. They've just got a different point system, which I
Oh.
can't understand.
Oh yeah,
But,
it's 1 to 10. I don't even know which one's good. I still don't.
well,
Shah used to come home and tell me, and I'd be like, "Well done." And you're like, "No, that's
oh,
what is an A
I
then?"
believe it's the wrong way round. In
Oh,
my opinion, if I'd have
so
done
like
it.
10 out of 10 is 1 out of 10. Why do
No,
they
the
make
other
it
way
so
round.
difficult?
No, oh no, you've got it the right way round then. You've understood it. I haven't. I would have thought one
So
would be the
10 is good.
best.
Oh,
10 is good. But I didn't even think
I
it went to
still
10. I
don't.
thought it went to 9.
Exactly.
Sean told she
And
got all 10s.
here is why.
Sean got all 1s and added a 0 to the other end and when I got all 10s.
Oh.
Anyway, back to feminism. Where was I? We're very intelligent people and we're wide. I think I was trying to make the point about how clever we are and we still don't know anything about feminism. But there's going to be a lot of people who haven't read as much as us, haven't even thought about this, who know less than us. And I think we're a good example of probably a middle ground. Like, it's not our
Yeah.
subject, but we're also not completely ignorant to it. And so this is where people who are a middle ground, this is the level of understanding that middle
Yeah.
ground people have.
Yeah.
And so we're probably, there's going to be people who are telling us you're so wrong. And that's
Mm.
fine because
They're very
we can
angry. They're a
be,
very angry bunch.
yeah,
That's my
these
understanding.
anti-feminists. No, but there's going to be people telling us we're wrong in our understanding and
Yeah.
we're talking a load of rubbish.
But
And
also, like you were saying, it was like when I was younger, I thought that I had to go to work, although my partner at the time did not want me to go to work. He wanted
yeah,
me to stay at home. His ideal of a woman with a child is you stay at home and but I was like, no, because then I'll have when I do want to go back to work, I'll have a massive gap, and then I won't be able to get with the kind of work that I was in. And also I didn't feel that there were any other options. The internet wasn't a thing then, really. You didn't work
yeah,
online. So you had to leave the home to do any work.
yeah,
And I had a massive conflict. And as I said to you, I would go and drop my daughter off at the childminders or the nursery at the time, actually, because she was quite young. She was 3 when I went back to work. Yeah, she was 3. And I would drop her at the childminders and then go and sit in my car at the station crying my eyes out because I didn't want to leave her, because I'd left her crying her eyes out. And I suppose, and I'd have incredible guilt of leaving her.
So you didn't want to leave her, but you were afraid of not working.
Yeah, 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 that's exactly it. So I was afraid that if because obviously I'm a woman, she's been off work. And also I think a lot of people say that they don't want to, of a certain age, women of a certain age are worried about their employment status, because men say, or even women, and I've heard women say this that I've worked with, that they wouldn't employ somebody because they're of childbearing age and they're just going to have time off. And I know it does cost smaller businesses a lot of money if they employ people, but that's another thing that I suppose is instilled into us, that's possibly why feminists are so angry.
Yeah, so my opinion on that is that the patriarchy
Mm.
has manipulated that so that women feel like they have to go
Yeah.
back to work. I even want to say have to go back to work, because I don't think it's even necessarily feel like they have to. I think many women do have to, because they're in a
Yeah, because I
financial
had a
position.
choice. I had a choice that I could have stayed at home. We were financially secure. I could have stayed at home, but I just thought, well, what happens if I'm on my own? And this was my thought process. Well, what happens if I'm on my own? Like, I saw my mum struggle very much on her own with two children, and I didn't want that. What if he decided to leave me and I was on my own, and I couldn't afford to. I wanted to give my child a certain life, and I had a very good job that I could earn a lot of money doing, so I didn't want to give that up.
Mm.
If I left it any longer, I felt, which is probably untrue, because plenty of people have big gaps and go back to work. But I don't think I had the knowledge then,
And what about
perhaps.
how do you feel about that now? Do you feel like that
Oh,
is?
I wish I'd spent more time with my child. 100%. I wish I'd had the knowledge, but I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't understand.
And so
It was
where?
natural for me.
Yeah,
But it wasn't for you, was it? Because as soon as you wanted children, you made a path that was different to me, and you made your life fit around your children. Whereas I did the opposite. I was like, well, the child can fit around me, which I bitterly regret now with the knowledge that I have.
I think I'm middle ground, actually, because I think I'm very lucky that my job I can do at home and um, work the hours of my discretion.
Mm,
But I started working again when Ezra was like 3 months old, and where I only had like a handful of clients a week. I mean, I don't think it would have even been necessarily 5 clients a week,
mm,
but I would leave her screaming because I think she was all right when she was really tiny, and then she got to an age where she realized that when I so which she was absolutely fine with Matt, but she'd start to realize when I was going to work, and I would go, and it would be for an hour in the room, or 2 hours, but she would scream for that whole time. And I think that had I been not such a feminist, I guess, thinking I could have it all, I would have chosen to not
mm.
do that and have a, I don't think she was very, I, I don't know if it was how she was born or if I've affected her attachment, because it was such a short amount of time that I was leaving her, really. And it
So
was
let
with
me
Matt.
get so
Mm.
feminists would have you going to work and having it all and not staying at home with the children.
Well,
See,
I
I would
don't
have thought
know.
that they would I speak about them like they're a different species, which isn't what I think. But
It's
yeah, I'm confused now. Would they have you being at home and tied to the kitchen sink? Because that seems like the opposite of feminism.
No, I think a feminist. I think that, as I said in that little passage, there's different types of feminism. So I think
Yeah,
that, but from my
trad
perspective,
feminist.
the feminist is the person who's the manager in the office, achieving the same as
What do you
men.
find, right? So
But I
the women that are in hierarchies in offices that I've worked in are all very manly.
mm,
They're all very I don't know. They come across. They're not very.
well, is that the
But then is
patriarchy?
that my yeah, and is that my also is that my should they be all like oh
Because is that what females are like?
yeah, exactly. What is a woman? Don't even, let's not go there. So yeah, I think that they have very, you have to be a kind of a certain type of person that has certain traits to be able to do that kind of role, perhaps.
Do you,
Is it
or is that
your
because the patriarchy's because you because there could be a woman who's very, or is this just society's construct of women
I
and
think
men?
it's society. I think, because I was talking about this at Christmas. Actually, I didn't bring it up at a Christmas dinner table with people that I don't know that well. but I kind of did. No, but it was more people working from home, and I wouldn't have them. And he was a traditional male, but has his own business. And he was saying, and his wife and his daughter work for him, and he was saying he would not have anybody working from home because he doesn't believe that they would do any work. And I'm like, is that true?
Mm.
I do better work at home, but I prefer to be able to, like when COVID was on, when COVID was on, game on, I got more work done because
Yeah.
I was able to. But then, would society then want you to go back to work? Like you get to spend time at home, so you can have it all then with a feminist like that.
Well, your attention's not. No, I think the feminists are the ones in the workplace.
Right, okay, I'm really, yeah.
I don't think I think the feminists are trying to make it so that the women are not the one at home.
Oh,
I think
must be
you
very
are
tiring.
a feminist. You just don't realize it.
Don't tell me I'm a feminist.
No, it's really very, very, very confusing. But and then this is the problem,
I'm
isn't it?
confused.
We're
Yeah.
we're trying to speak as if we're
Right, here we go. The intersectionality and limits of feminism was some. This is Louise Perry's take as well,
well, this
because
is
I've
Louise
asked.
Perry's take. Okay.
Yeah. So feminism today often aims to address race, class, and gender identity as interconnected systems of oppression.
Hmm.
So, yeah. But I think what we're saying, whether this broad scope dilutes feminism's original intent or strengthens it.
So, what was the original intent of? So, my understanding is that this is like the feminists were the women were the people who
It's harder to
fought
define, isn't
for
it?
fought for women to be
Adding
able
all
to
the
vote,
layers.
for example.
Yes. Yeah, like the suffragettes.
Yeah,
But
and
they
then
weren't, they were just basically fighting for rights, weren't they?
yes,
For our rights.
yes, and so I believe in that women should be allowed, should be supported to do whatever they choose to do.
Like you can't not do this because you're a woman.
But
But where does that
back
happen?
then, women were at home with the kids.
Mm.
So
So
when feminism
if we don't
started,
carry on, if we don't like help with this with feminism, then will we be back to where we were and not make, because didn't women only were only allowed to have bank accounts in the 1970s or credit cards or something on their own in the 1970s without their husbands signing for it and things?
yeah. But
But I don't agree with that.
my belief is that we do. I feel like we do need to step back a little. I feel that because of feminism, women are being put in the situation that you felt like you were in, where they're
Yeah.
having to go against their natural instincts because there's a group of people who are saying women can have it all. Women should
Mm.
be achieving the same as men. And it's all wrapped up in the workplace.
Yeah.
Here we go. This is Wikipedia. I mean, how first wave of feminism of the 19th and early 20th centuries focused on overturning legal inequalities, particularly addressing issues of women's suffrage. Second
Yeah.
wave feminism broadened debate to include cultural inequalities, gender norms, and the role of women in society. Third wave feminism, which was the 1990s to the 2000s, refers to diverse strains of feminist activity seen by third wavers themselves, both as a continuation of the second wave and response to its perceived failures. And now it's expanded to include body positivity, trans inclusivity, and an open discourse about rape culture. So I guess that's Louise Perry's
Oh,
part of
okay.
it. But
Body
if we take
positivity.
if we take
Didn't know
where
that was part of feminism.
yeah, if we take where I'm at, no, it doesn't really. Here we go. The Victorian ideal created a dichotomy of separate spheres for men and women that was very clearly defined in theory, though not always in reality. In this ideology, men were to occupy the public sphere, the space of wage labour and politics, and women the private sphere, the space of home and children. This
Ah.
feminine ideal, also called the cult of domesticity, was typified in Victorian conduct books such as blah 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 blah. Oh, right. Queen Victoria herself disparaged the concept of feminism, which she described in private letters as the mad, wicked folly of women's rights. So, as Jane Austen addressed women's restrictive lives in the early part of the century, the others depicted women's misery and frustration. So is it saying that women, feminism back then was the clearly defined separations or not?
This is why I find it so confusing. And why
Does anyone actually know? Does anyone know this, or do people just?
I don't think it's not spoken. I think a lot of people that I know would say, I know a lot of women that work in, I suppose, what would be considered male environments. But I think back in the day, it was less, I felt like there was less of a I don't know, like a band around it than there is now. Like in the 90s, it was just you didn't have to worry about what you said. You just said what you thought and people corrected you or they didn't, or nobody was offended. But was that to do with feminism? I don't know.
Here we go. This is a little bit more highbrow, the Britannica.
Oh, that's why I
Throughout
used to
most
do all
of
my
Western,
homework.
we had the books. Throughout most of Western history, women were confined to the domestic sphere while public life was reserved for men. In medieval Europe, women were denied the right to own property, to study, or to participate in public life. At the end of the 19th century in France, they were still compelled to cover their heads in public, and in parts of Germany, a husband still had the right to sell his wife. Even as late as the early 20th century,
I'd be screwed.
women could neither vote nor hold elective office in Europe and in most of the United States, where several territories and states granted women suffrage long before the federal government did so. Women were prevented from conducting business without a male representative, be it father, brother, husband, legal agent, or even son. Married women could not exercise control over their own children without the permission of their husbands. Moreover, women had little or no access to education, were barred from most professions. In some parts of the world, such restrictions on women continue today. So, so that suggests to me that it's kind of snowballed. So it started with the suffrage, the women voting, and it's kind of gone to women being able to do business, women being able to have some rights and some options. And so from my perspective, that's just continued into women being allowed to work.
Does it
And
need
then
to go
now
any
it's like
further? Did it
women
need to
being
go
allowed
further
to.
though? Women allowed to be men, literally.
Well, I wonder if some women are feeling like they have to be men to achieve, because it's still not
Yeah.
working. But my perspective is that it's gone too far, and there's so many women who, like yourself, are feeling that they have to go and do those things. And so they're doing and taking on Louise Perry's opinion. There's vast biological differences between the sexes. Well,
You
we
can't
both use the
outrun,
word vast, but
you know.
there's biological
A man is
differences.
always stronger and faster than you when it comes to your safety.
Yeah, and she does back it up with a lot of research.
Mm.
So I think, maybe there's a lot of women who are doing things that they feel like they're obliged to do or have to do or have no choice because of the feminist movement. When actually,
Or you could have just stayed at home and been a good mum. Not that that's
take the
necessarily, I don't like, that's
just out of
my,
that sentence.
yeah.
Could have stayed at home and been a good mum.
You're so well read. Oh, it just shines.
I'm careful with my use of the word just these
You are,
days.
and should.
Just should. Yeah, could.
But you know as well. So, have you ever watched or read any of Margaret Atwood's books?
No.
Like The Handmaid's Tale is quite
Oh,
horrific,
no.
dystopian type book. But or if you've watched it, but within that, like, women are completely oppressed. Like, it's women are turning on women, but nothing that she writes about within her books has never happened in history.
Wow.
So not possibly within the same construct, but everything that she writes about has happened at some point in history to women.
Wow.
So you can see why there are some angry ones out there.
Yeah.
Which is totally my view on it.
Yeah.
I don't think all feminists are angry.
But I guess that's Louise Perry's argument, isn't it? That we have a right to be angry about the situation, but let's direct our energy on making ourselves safe rather than trying to stop the men. Well, Louise Perry's this
You
book
can
is about the
educate your men.
sexual
Like, men shouldn't
revolution,
be
isn't
going
it?
around. Yeah, men shouldn't be going around raping and pillaging, but it
Yeah,
happens. So to make your, and it's she does say about being in. I said to you before about being in a intoxicated group of people. So if you are drunk with a group of male and female, don't be the last female to leave.
yeah. I think I've taken this conversation too far down the career path, because we started talking about Louise Perry and she's writing all about sex basically,
Yeah,
and um, how feminism is
affecting it.
well, feminism is I can't find a word, is supporting, that's the wrong word, but anyway, is supporting like women being able to do whatever we want, and as that foreword describes, live like men, in the sense that, and she talks a lot in the book, doesn't she, about how men are, when we lived tribally, that men could kind of go from woman to woman,
Yeah,
impregnating all these women, whereas a woman can only can only have one baby a year, pretty much. And so that it's the men's role to go and kind of impregnate all these women, and the women's role to stay, just having the take the just out to have the babies. And so biologically, men have evolved to want to move on quickly through sexual partners, whereas women evolved to just have the one sexual partner. And she also talks about things like war, how men have evolved to be able to fight, because if you send 20 men out and only one comes back, that one man can still impregnate
yeah,
the whole tribe, and continue the tribe, whereas if you send 20 women out and only one comes back, you can't reestablish your tribe. um,
yeah,
and so and so she explains all of the biological differences between males and females, and why men are more promiscuous than women. And there's, as I said, there's lots of research to back all of this
yeah.
up, all this data up. And what she's saying is that feminism is saying that women can be the same as men sexually, and it's making some women feel like they should be the same as men sexually, and if they're not the same as men sexually, then they're faulty. And lots of women are behaving in certain ways because there's now this expectation that women will just be very liberal with their intimacy.
Well, you
um,
look at that girl who's or there's two of them, isn't there, that are going, the OnlyFans girls that are going around and trying to do world records of sleeping with however many men. I don't know if you've heard about this, because I know that's probably not
no.
your genre, but there is a
Is it yours?
there's two. Yes, mine. Love a bit of OnlyFans. But no, they basically, there's these two girls at the moment, and they are trying to do Guinness World Records. I don't even know if it even gets recognised in the Guinness Book of Records. But I was listening to Candy Sowens, actually. I do like her. And she basically was interviewing one of the girls, and she was like, but you do know that you're violating your body by doing this. And these girls just don't see anything wrong with sleeping with 100 men. They're queued up outside to sleep with them, and they're getting paid for it.
And
And
so
there's a queue of 100 men ready to sleep with this one girl. And I think that personally, she is delusional, without a doubt, if she thinks that isn't damaging for her mentally and physically. And also, who are these 100 men that think it's okay to do this? But it just goes to show that if it's on offer, there they are. There's your 100 men.
and what's your, I mean, we shouldn't put our own beliefs onto someone else's, but what would you think that's actually going on inside for these girls?
I think there's trauma that they possibly won't admit. I think there's stuff that's gone on in their childhood that makes them think that that's okay. But they do come across as that they are very switched on and they understand what they're doing. They're not girls that would sit there just going, oh, they're not silly girls. But also there's a lot of financial gain to be made out of that in a world that maybe where status and financial success is seen as a status, but then to get there, what are you giving up for that? And I don't think they see anything wrong with it at the moment. Will they then come back in 20 years' time when they've got more knowledge? I mean, I'm talking that they're my daughter's age.
And so when they're actually having sex with these men, I wonder how
they
they
get
feel.
45 seconds each, apparently. 45 seconds each. I listened to a podcast on it the other day. I thought I might have sent it to you actually. But it's yeah. There's a lot of I'd like to delve into their psyche a bit to see exactly where they were taught that kind of thing's okay.
I'd like to delve into their psyche and ask them whether they feel comfortable in the moment, and whether they are literally doing this for the money and the status, and whether they're just shutting off, potentially even disassociating in that moment, just to let it happen because they're looking at the bigger picture of the money and the status.
But then you see some of them that I've obviously this is a complete opposite, or is it the opposite of feminism? I don't know, because they're doing what men do technically in that industry. But they there's other people that I know that don't have the intelligence to do any other career, and also it's like you earn they're earning something like £100,000 a month. What other career would you be able to earn that kind of money? So either you've got to be incredibly intelligent and be able to then put that money away to survive for the rest of your life because your looks aren't going to last forever, or I don't know. Is that the only reason they're doing it, for the money? Or they, one of them, I listened to a podcast and she's like, "I just love it." What do you love? But that's like you're saying, you're putting your own beliefs on it. Then they could be happy with what they're doing,
but also,
and they certainly come across like it.
If she's doing a podcast to market herself, she can't say she doesn't. She's never going to sit there and say, I don't love it, I hate it, I just lay down and think of something else and hope that it all happens very quickly, because she can't, because that's not going to work. But in 10 years' time, when this is all over, will she be doing podcasts?
Somebody said that, is this a social experiment? They're hoping this, but there's two of them that have come out, both British girls, and they've come out saying that they are, that they're both doing it, and they're both making some serious bank out of it as well. So, but is that the only reason, or is it the attention side of it?
Well, the status, I can imagine there's a drive for status, because that's the world we live in now, isn't it? With likes and followers and everything.
Attention.
This has got me thinking, when you said about them earning £100,000 a week or whatever, and
I might be exaggerating, but it's a hell of a lot of money. It's life-changing money that they are earning on a monthly basis from doing this kind of thing and filming it.
I thought, well, the career that you could make that kind of money in as a man would be being a football player. And I've had this argument with my brother, who says that so women football, the England football team, the women's England football team, are not paid nearly as much.
But then would they get the crowds out? And this is an argument. I've spoken to Pete about this as well. We've spoken, because there's a documentary on women surfing. It's really good, actually. And it showed about all the women surfers back in, when your Kelly Slaters and people like that were around, maybe the late 80s, early 90s. And it was showing all the female surfers who were just as good, but they didn't bring the crowds in. They didn't get the sponsorships.
Exactly.
And I'm like, is that the real issue there? They weren't getting they were living in vans. I mean, to me, it looked like an amazing life. They were brought on in the interim, if the waves weren't good, to entertain the people.
Yeah.
And the men were given all the money, but the men were bringing the crowds in, the sponsorship, and that's what it was all about.
Yeah. And so what my brother said about this is that the quality of the women's football isn't as good as the quality of the men's football, which that would ring true with men being stronger than women. You don't put men and women against each other in sport, because the men will always win because of their biological makeup. And so, is the quality better? And then, therefore, is it like when you go to a theatre, you pay less for your local production than you do for a West End production because the quality is better?
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know what's right
No, I
or
don't.
wrong,
I
but it
don't.
does
But
seem
I
unfair
don't.
that the
But
women are
yeah,
paid less, and it's not. Maybe that. Yeah, it's not
yeah.
marketed as well.
The prize money for the women in the surfing was like pittance, and the men's was like hundreds of thousands, or not hundreds of thousands, maybe thousands at the time, which probably would equate to hundreds of thousands now. But they weren't because they were female. But they didn't bring the crowds in, and that's
Yeah.
what people wanted.
So
So,
the feminist in me would be saying, how can we get the crowds in so that the women are
mm.
doing as
You
well as
can't
the men
make
here?
people
But
like. You can't make people like. But then, is then society then conditioned?
yeah,
No, just watch the men. The women, don't worry about the women.
well,
Just watch the men.
we must be, to some extent.
Mm.
I would have
Yeah.
thought. I don't know. I think should we round it up before people get
Yeah.
bored of our rabble? Because I don't
We
think we
basically don't know.
should we go read some
That's the
books on
answer.
feminism? No, but I think we've
That,
given a good
but
overview on what the
this is what I
layperson
think.
believes.
And also this is what I think what we were saying about why we want to do this is
Mm,
because we can have open discussions about things like this to try and come to a conclusion, which we seem to have failed at today. But do you think if you said this in front of a mixed pool of women at a dinner table, you'd probably get the same kind of conversation? Because
yeah, you would get. I
unless
think you
you've
would.
got unless you've got a bunch of angry feminists in the
If
room.
you've got a raging, I've actually got some friends who are really, real feminists, and
Maybe we
I've
should
probably
speak to
never
them and get
given them
them.
the time.
Yeah. Suppose I haven't told you.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Maybe I
Yeah.
haven't. Maybe I've talked too much and not let them.
Oh. So
Right.
basically, we agreed to that we don't know enough about this.
Yeah, we don't know anything about it, do we? But we've got our own opinions, and we also,
Yeah.
I think, recognise that potentially we have been held back by the patriarchy. We are the people who are being held back, and the
Mm.
people that feminists are trying to fight for, but we haven't really noticed it because we're not knowledgeable enough.
Yeah.
And perhaps we should read a little bit more and notice a little bit more and fight a
Mm.
little harder.
Yeah.
And a good lesson for people who are intelligent is to work hard.
Yeah. And journal. So
Journal, always journal your thoughts. Yeah, and meditate.
yeah. Yes. Meditation's key.
This
Okay.
journey of
Right.
life with
Speak to you
friendship
next
as
time.
our guide, together we'll grow, 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 grow. Grow together we'll grow, grow, grow.